Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Antiheroes Anonymous, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time joining us. I'm Ethan, and I'm the Dungeon Master for this 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons show! And after several weeks, you may notice that we have a video set up for while we're playing remotely, so you can enjoy the videos of my bird in the background. Hopefully he doesn't get too shouty. But that in mind, bear with us as we have any technical difficulties as we're playing. For example, you may notice our stat cards, which are in the corner of the screen somewhere, have outdated stats. They're for level 18, not 19, but that's okay. Bear with us.
We're pointing in all random directions because literally only Zach knows what this layout looks like.
Ethan, for you, it's like this.
Like that?
No, other way.
That way, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Those stat cards. Nick, do you want to go ahead and do some, start off the character introductions, and then I will do announcements and a recap, and we'll get into it?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nick. I play Sir Thaddeus Hammerlock, the Human Defensions Paladin.
Hi, I'm Kay. I play Harmony, who is the Tiefling Wild Magic Sorcerer.
Hi, I'm Zach, and I play Zant, who is the Human Fighter Ranger.
I am Melissa, and I play Mara, who is a Human Pirate Rogue.
That she is. We premiere our episodes every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube. Throughout the show, we use a variety of custom items as well as a custom wild magic table, so be aware of that as you're watching. Our music comes from BattleBards, TabletopAudio, and Incompetech, and the character portraits, which you'll see on the info cards in the top corner of the screen
Top right.
this way.
Yep, that
Top
way.
right.
Yep, over here.
We're drawn by an artist named Carrie Peach, who goes by @CarrieDraws on Twitter. Other than that, you can just check the video descriptions for links and information to everything I just mentioned and more. And other than that, if you still want more from us, you can follow us on Twitter @AntiheroesAnon, where we post every now and again. And finally, we just hope you enjoy the show, share it with your friends, and come back to watch some more. So, recap. The anti-heroes are going after a night hag named Mother Midnight in her lair on Malbold, the 6th of the 9 hells. They've reached Stygia, the 5th layer, where they have 2 tasks that they need to complete. The first is to annul the Ice Devil Bazith's hold on the crew of the Sea Devil's Curse, which happens to include Mara's grandfather, Anton. The second is to recover the long-lost heart of a shattered pit fiend to make good on a promise to their friend Sial. In Stygia, they leapt into battle with Demogorgon, the Prince of Demons, halting his advance through the 9 hells at Tantalin, having then afterwards been hailed as the Heroes of Hell, a moniker which they are varying degrees of satisfied with. They've been invited to a party in their honor held by Glasya, the Lord of the 6th layer of the 9 hells, Malbold, which is their ultimate destination. So, we pick up tonight's episode. The group of you were exploring the city of Tantalin before the party. Part of that was picking out fancy outfits for the party. So I hope you've all done some thinking about what you want your fancy party outfit to look like. But partially you were just sort of wandering the city. So I was curious. The city, from what you can tell, seems to be divided into several sections. There's the sort of outer layer, which is where you spent most of your time thus far, which is where a lot of tieflings live, and it's kind of like a planar hub, so a lot of planar travel goes through there. And so that's where you were doing most of your shopping and stuff. But in the remainder of your day, as you're trying to explore the city, did you want to attempt to go into further layers of the city? Or were you mostly going to stick within that tiefling section on the outside?
I'd be kind of curious to see, but
I guess personally, I'm curious. I want to know like what other sorts of people live here. Is it tieflings and devils, or are there like people who have moved here and just decide I'm going to live in hell?
On the outskirts of the city, you mostly, or that like outer layer that you've been living in or you've been experiencing so far, you've really only seen tieflings and then the devils that are busying themselves with like repairing the outer fortifications of Tantalin, which were destroyed during the siege. Yeah, and then the occasional like planar traveler, but it's very obvious that they're travelers and like not residents, because they'll have like caravans with them, or they'll, but based on their gear, you can tell that they're traveling. So yeah, at least on the outer layer, all you see are tieflings, devils, and then people who clearly are not from here. So if you just stay in the outer sort of edge of the city, that's what you end up seeing.
Okay.
But if you wanted to venture in, you might encounter something else.
I mean, I want to venture in. Who wants to come with me?
Yeah, I'd go with you. Kind of curious.
Well, we're off adventuring again.
Yeah.
So as you venture deeper into the city, you'll recall that there were these sort of concentric walls as you go deeper into the city, and you could see them rising up above the buildings that make up the city. And as you approach that next layer of walls, which was sort of untouched by the siege, you spot that each entrance deeper into the city is guarded by patrols of devils, and they seem to be made up mostly of ice devils, but they're kind of like stationed at each of those entrances. And whenever you can see several instances of this just as you kind of like walk the perimeter. Whenever a group of tieflings, planar travelers, or even lesser devils tries to move through the gate, past one of these groups of ice devil guards, they go through like a grueling interrogation on the part of the guards that sometimes results in violence. And only, it seems like, those who are able to, with wit, talk their way through, or with brute force fight their way through, are allowed into the next layer of the city.
Interesting. I think we have both.
Though you would also see groups of greater devils that were perhaps like leading the reconstruction of the walls on the outside of the city that passed through unmolested whatsoever.
Maybe we can just use the name of that general or whatever.
Or
the Council of
the
Eight.
name of the Heroes of Hell.
That too. One, two, or both.
Whichever works.
Yeah.
But you mean Fergus?
Was that his name? Fergus?
Fergus.
Ferguson?
Because he's Fergus. He's Ferg. Never mind.
Nice job.
What
Laura.
did you drink back at the frozen tap? What did you have?
Well, it's that Stygia ale, man. What can I say?
So what do you guys
I mean,
think?
are we doing this? Are we going to the
Sure.
inner part? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just saunter up to the Ice Devil Guard, just like full pompous.
Okay. The ice devils that are guarding the gates seem to be like well armored, and like unlike a lot of devils that you've seen before, they actually have what looks like this like dark iron armor plates on them, sort of augmenting their natural armor. And one of them sort of like gestures to you as you approach and like throws up a hand. Says, "Halt! Who goes there? Do you seek passage deeper into the city?"
Indeed, I do. I'm surprised you don't recognize me.
And he kind of like, to remind you, ice devils kind of have this like insect like appearance to them. Their faces having these like sort of like fly type eyes, and their mouths having mandibles to them, but their bodies almost seeming like they're comprised of, like translucent ice itself. So he kind of looms over you, with the height of something like 8 to 9 feet or so. Looks down.
Like my
So
3 feet.
Way down.
Yep.
I like come up to his kneecap.
Yeah.
Looks down at you
Got her
and
hands
says,
on her hips.
She sure does.
"No. Should I recognize you? If you have permission to enter deeper into the city from a greater devil, I'll need to see it now."
You should have heard of us by now. We're the Heroes of Hell. We're the reason you guys are still standing here.
Kind of scratches his chin. That's a bit of a...
Surely you've heard the rumors. Or would you like me to go and talk to Glasya? Because I'm sure she can explain everything.
I guess this is almost like a deception check, because like you don't necessarily have Glasya's express permission, but
Sure.
you've just like name dropped an archdevil, so
Yep.
It's
Oh,
either
boy.
that or intimidation, sounds like.
yeah, one or the other.
Can
whichever
I
you wanna
please do intimidation, because I am proficient in that and I never get to use it. Also, is Thaddeus here?
Yeah.
Do I get bonus to this? Or is that just saving throws?
I'm not
That's just
helping you.
saving throws. No, I mean from your aura, but that's just saving
No,
throws, right?
that's just
That's so typical.
Okay. It's okay, I don't need you.
I'm not helping you.
Yeah,
Okay,
so that's
I'll come
a 19.
stand behind her.
No, I don't need it. That's 19 on die plus 11, so 30.
Okay. He looks you up and down, kind of surveys the group backing you, Zant and Thaddeus with their like bulging muscles, and Mara kind of like idly tugging on her whip or whatever Mara would be doing. And he says,
It would be like that game. Do-do-do-do.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Do-do-do-do.
I'm gonna need to get my superior in on this. Wait here. And he goes back into like a little gatehouse in the wall. And he doesn't come back. But this like
just go.
big,
Yeah, let's go.
well, there's other ice devils there, you know, that are just
okay,
kind of like
okay.
watching and like brandishing spears at you. This big lumbering sort of pit fiend comes back out, and he's also like wearing armor. And he just kind of like surveys the group of you, spits on the ground, and says, "So you're the guys who won into the city, huh? Dropping the name of Glasya? Well, let's have some proof then."
I mean, did you not witness the fall of the demon, the Prince of Demons?
You can't see shit from here.
You are
And
pretty
I mean,
short
as
for
you
an
sort
ice
of
devil.
look back, he's a pit fiend, but you
For a
like
pit fiend.
you look down the street from here, and you can actually see that he's not wrong. You literally have a view of like the tiefling ghettos of the city. There's nothing.
Well,
You can't see the harbor from
I
there.
mean, we are like the guests of honor for this banquet coming up. Surely
true.
they know about that. Like, there's all this traffic going through.
Yeah,
Who
we
do you
don't
think
have any
that's for?
physical
Like,
invitation or whatever.
yeah,
Like, how bad do we want to get in here?
bad enough to try at
Um,
least.
Thaddeus, I think since you're kind of being a little bit aloof to the situation, you're not quite sure
Oh.
you want to go in. Actually, just make me a perception check.
Okay.
I want to whisper. I want to whisper something to Harmony too.
Oh, that was cool. I somehow rolled right onto my keyboard. It's bad. 10.
10. Okay. Behind you, sort of in the alleyways of
Mhm.
the like between a couple of tiefling homes and maybe a shop or something like that, you spot a flicker of movement. And what's interesting to you about it is there's sort of like you can tell that the only reason you were able to spot it at all was because of the magic that affects you from your sword, sort of that like increased sight that the sword gives you. But then it's gone. And the pit fiend is kind of leering down at the group of you.
Yeah. Can I tell how bad Harmony wants to get in here?
I mean, well, roll an insight check.
Sure.
I also want to whisper something to Harmony.
Good at those now.
And I have a question. So is Glasya is the archdevil of this layer?
No.
6-1. Next one.
Yeah, next one.
I said this guy's frozen or whatever, right?
Levistus, yeah.
Huh.
It's his tomb that we're going to at the party. That was an 18.
Okay, yeah. I think with that, you probably, because you know Harmony well enough,
Mhm.
right now it's more a matter of pride than it is actually about getting to the. Getting,
Okay, then I'm not
city.
gonna do the thing that I was gonna do.
She really just wants to like win.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything then.
So when we do
So he's asking. Sorry, whisper your thing to me.
Yeah. Well, it's also a thought to Ethan as well. When we do our messaging earrings, we have that same like telepathic ping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's listening. Is it Glasya?
You don't
How
really
would you
know.
know that?
That's why I'm like
Um,
asking, because if it is, then we can like send a message, be like, hey Glasya, can you let us into the, this is
The
what
way
I
you
whispered
had
to
it
Harmony.
explained to you was that certain archdevils are powerful enough that whenever telepathic communication happens in their lair, they can overhear it.
Okay, so this might be Levistus then,
hmm
even though he's frozen. Huh.
He's still an archdevil.
Okay. So we can like message back, hey Levistus, we just saved your city. Can you let us into the
No, I
inner?
don't think that's gonna work.
Wouldn't it? I mean, maybe.
Do you want to try it?
Mom, we can't hear you.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Okay. So over your telepathic link, what do you say exactly?
I say, I'll say, Levistus, we defeated the Prince of Demons, and we would like to seek passage into the inner parts of the city. Could you let us do that?
Okay. There's a little bit of silence after that, and this pit fiend is still just kind of like leering down on you, waiting for a response. And you just kind of like stare back as there's this silence?
Yeah.
I'm going to, did you send that message to me?
I think I'd whisper it to you and say, hey, I want to try something with our message
Uh-huh.
hearings, and then I'd try that.
Okay. I'm just gonna let that sit there for a second. And
Okay.
he was saying he wants proof.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll say, sorry, I'll say, well, if you want proof, why don't you just summon Glasya here and she can tell you herself?
Like I have the authority, he says, as an ice devil rushes back out from the barracks. It's the first one you talk to. And he kind of like motions for the pit fiend to like lean down to him, and he whispers something in the pit fiend's ear, and he's like, what? Really? You're serious? All right then. And he just kind of looks down at the group of you, and he gets this like sour expression on his face, and he says, seems like you have friends in high places. You're free to go. And he kind of like steps aside to let you in.
Next time it'll do us both a favor and just, believe us when we tell you the
It
truth.
worked!
Just walk through.
I think it worked! Yes!
I want to ask this guy, this pit fiend, just like, excuse me, are there any fine clothing stores in this district of the city?
Man, there's a fair few. I mean, look at me. Do you think I care about clothes? And he just kind of like gestures to his armor. I'm sure you can find something. Whether there will be stuff suited for your size, and he kind of like looks at Harmony pointedly. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I always thought you were short for a pit fiend.
I'm 10'2". Yeah, but you guys are let in.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Can you hear me now, Harmony?
Yes.
We were talking to Pinky earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't speak that
It's okay.
language.
And Thaddeus, I think you would notice there's another like flicker of movement back by that alley, and then
I want to go investigate it.
Well,
Briefly.
it's like it's on the other side of the wall. So I mean, like your friends are going one way, and then it's back the other way.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'll ignore it then.
Okay.
So yeah, let's see what there is to see.
Yeah.
Okay. You make your way into this part of the city, and you immediately see it's similar in a lot of ways in that like most of the city seems to be constructed of ice, but the craftsmanship that went into the ice structures in this part of the building of the city is significantly better. And also, as you look around, immediately you're seeing no signs of tieflings. I mean, you see maybe one or two, but they're like being like ushered around by devils. And the devils that you see in here all seem to be of a certain ranking or higher. So like, for example, you see very few imps. And the few imps that you do see seem to be moving quickly as if they're like rushing from task to task and very intent on doing it like as quickly as possible. Most of the devils you see within here seem to be higher up in the hierarchy.
That's really rank in here. Got it.
Great.
Should we bother asking around for that other what's his face ice devil that holds the contract
Phase it?
while we're here? Yeah. Do we want to scope it out, see if we can figure out where he lives or whatever? Would that benefit us at all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see why not.
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. One of you, I guess, could roll an investigation check at advantage.
I don't mind doing
Not
that.
me.
Who has the highest one?
Yeah, I
Not
think
me.
Xant is the only one with the decent one at all.
I have a pretty good one.
Okay.
It's +8.
Yeah, please do it.
All right. That's a natural 20 and a 19. So
Okay.
that's pretty good.
What's your process like as you go about trying to, find this ice devil? Do you like stop people on the street?
So
Do you...
I think given that I'm pretty sure we got permission from Levistus based off that idea. So at that point, if we have his favor, I wouldn't mind stopping some higher ranking devils on the side, or if there is a place of like authority that is sort of open doored, then we could like hop in there and then ask him questions.
Chamber of Commerce type of thing.
Yeah, otherwise, let's see. Yeah, I think I'd probably try those two things first.
Okay. Well, the first thing I heard was stop a devil of, some rank. So you see a horned devil, which if you fought some of them on the Sea Devil's Curse,
Mm-hmm.
they're sort of the like taller, they have kind of like dark brown, almost like burnt brown colored skin, and they have always these like really big powerful horns. Some of them are more curled, some of them are more like bull's horns, but they always have these horns. So you stop one of them on the street and he kind of looks down at you, and what do you ask? You just say,
Hey, we're looking for an ice devil. Can you help us find a specific ice devil around here?
like gestures around to the street. There's plenty here.
Yeah.
Who are you
Do
looking
you know
for?
of Bazith?
He kind of like raises an eyebrow at you. I've heard the name.
Could you give us a little more information about him, his whereabouts?
He's one of Levistus's guys.
Like
The
one of
city
his
is
like.
Garion's. You're not going to find him in here.
Sorry, what was that? I didn't hear you.
The city belongs to Garion. You're not going to
Gregorian.
find
Okay.
one of Levistus's guys in here.
Why would that be? We're new in town. I'm not sure.
Just kind of like shakes his head at you. He says, "Look, if you're looking for one of Levistus's, your best bet's the tomb. And look, it's in the harbor just for you." And he kind of like
Oh.
points, back to the way you came.
We're on our way there already.
Okay. I'm gonna roll insight on him as well.
Okay, yeah.
That's
I mean,
pretty bad.
You rolled a natural 20 on your investigation check,
Okay.
so like.
I mean, what I want to
you're-
know is, do I sense like some sort of hostility with what he's saying? Like, is there like a clear like fighting for power, sort of like a power struggle sort of going on or something? Or
Yeah. Okay. So what was your insight check then?
that's pretty bad. It was a 12.
12. You've already been told, or I guess it was Thaddeus who was told by Furcus that Stygia is kind of a contested realm.
Mhm.
The Archdevil's technically Levistus, but there's at least one or two other, there's other factions that sort of vie for power in the realm. So I think this is something that Xant would know.
Okay.
Like Levistus isn't the only power here.
Okay. I guess so. I
Yeah.
would just ask a follow-up question, but like, don't you all serve Levistus though? Isn't he the archdevil of this?
Yeah,
like...
and this horn devil like looks annoyed at your, to him, like silly line of questioning, but he's indulging you for now.
Sure.
Partially, because he sees Holy Paladin of Asanahen behind you, kind of like cracking the knuckles or whatever. But he says, "Look, I try to keep myself clear of the power struggles within this realm, but there's a lot going on. All you need to know, this place once belonged to Garion. Now it belongs to the Levistus. Two still don't get along.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
Garion still retains power within the city, so just, if you're gonna align yourself, be careful. And then he's like, look, I really have to go. I need to be at a document signing in like 2 minutes ago.
Okay.
And since I'm late, I'm gonna get fired. And that means literally set on fire. So
Sorry, thanks for your time.
I'm melting.
Okay.
he scurries off.
So I think that's a pretty good lead then.
Yeah,
So I mean,
we
we'll
might
have to just,
see him at the party.
Yep.
yeah, we'll have to be ready
Yeah.
for something like that.
So still in the mood to shop that?
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of decide what I want my clothes to look like, so we don't need to do a whole shopping scene. Just like I am gonna shop for some clothes, and I know what they're gonna look like.
You do manage to find a good clothing shop. All of you can pick out sort of whatever clothes you want. The only thing that I'll say that you notice, particularly about being in this upper part of the city, is that you see a lot of like couriers running around, transporting documents and things like that.
Are these the same type of like imp couriers who gave us the invitation to the party?
Many of them are, though some of them that like run past you really quick, you can see in just like brief glances, they actually have these like messenger tubes on their backs between their wings, but they're like harnessed around the imp and then sewn into the imp's skin. The purpose of that, you don't know, but those sort of imps like run by you all the time. The other sort of like thing you see is a lot of like larger carriages, which are like piled high with documents that are being transported between buildings and escorted with like excessively armed guards. Like there's like a pit fiend with each, like transportation of these massive stacks of documents. And it seems excessive. But other than that, you guys managed to go around the district and you are met with a little bit of hostility, but like you find a place that's willing to sell to you and you manage to buy clothes just fine. So you come out of this with a pair of fine clothes for each of you.
Okay. Are those about like PHP prices, or do they want soul coins, or what?
Yeah, we can just do the PHP price for
Okay.
each of them,
Okay.
which I looked up last time and I can't remember.
It's like, is it like 20 gold or something, or?
Oh, I think I wrote it
5,
down. I
10,
think
15?
15 for
Okay.
fine, he said.
So who's all buying clothes?
15 to 20.
That is.
That's 2. Is Mara buying clothes?
No, I have glamour studded
no,
armor.
That's right. Okay. I was actually gonna wear the ornamental samurai armor for mine.
Okay. Yeah, the stuff you found on
So-
Kamekame Island.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it'd be pretty cool. So I'm like, all right, let's do that.
Yeah.
So I think those
you don't
were
have
decorated.
to deduct party money for that. I already took it off my own personal sheet.
For yours? Okay, I'll just do it for Harmy's then.
How much was it?
15 gold, 15 big ones.
Oh, then I can pay with my own money too.
Fine. Who needs a treasurer anyways? All right. Hunter fumes silently in the corner as he's not needed.
Wait, who's Hunter?
Or I did it. Oh.
Wow, no, you're doing it. It's your character.
Who is that? That's
Who's that
Byako's
guy?
nickname. Byako fumes silently. Dang it.
Yeah. So is there anything else you guys want to do? Or, I mean, this takes up a significant amount of time, so you can just sort of make your way down to...
One more thing. I'm kind of just curious. Could you just name off some of like the buildings or things that we passed by?
Yeah, a lot of the things you see in this sort of, and you can see there's one more section of the city, like beyond the section that you're in. But within this sort of middle section, the sorts of things you see are like scribes. What do you call that? Like a person who authenticates document signings?
Oh, notaries.
Notaries. Like lawyers, like law firms, that sort of thing.
Okay. So this is sort of like the business district or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the houses that you do see seem to be like a lot fancier than the ones in the lower district of the city. And you see devils that go in and out of those. There's like no tieflings that reside in this layer of the city.
Okay.
A few of them are in here doing business, but it's mostly like devils and devils higher up in the hierarchy for that matter.
Okay. Also, side note, if we take a break, there is one small thing I want to fix with the video recording. It's not a big deal. I just forgot to change the overlapping, so it's just a little bugging me just a little bit. So, but
Yeah,
everything
maybe in,
everything
like,
else is good so
10
far.
or 20 minutes.
Yep, just letting you know. So, but that's all I had.
Yeah.
In that case, the group of you can head sort of back out the gate. The devils who were at the gate kind of give you side eye again as you go through, but they don't give you any trouble. Make your way down towards the sort of like dock area of the city that surrounds the harbor. And when you're there, you can see, like you saw the night before, there are barges that have been pulled into position surrounding this massive iceberg in the center of the harbor. And this iceberg, when I say massive, it's probably like a mile wide, and it seems to be taking up a significant portion of the harbor. And there are these barges and docks that sort of extend out to it, and you can see that they've been lit by magical lights, and lilac purple carpets have been rolled out across them, leading the way up to a lit entrance at the front of this massive iceberg. So now would be a good time to find a place to change into your party outfits if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I figured I was already wearing mine up to the party if that's where we're headed.
So why don't you guys tell me about your party outfits?
Oh boy. Go ahead.
Okay. I have an image of part of mine because I kind of just copied it off something cool that I saw online. That is wearing a long, let's see if this works, dark blue frock coat. Wow, that completely failed.
If you hold it
there
up
we go.
for a few seconds,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool.
With a, and it's got like silver filigree over a light blue vest and a black silk shirt. And he's got his boots polished and he's wearing white gloves and he's got moonrise on him in his scabbard.
So for maybe one of the first times since you guys have met him, Thaddeus looks the part of a nobleman.
Great.
And then Zant, you said you're wearing the like ornamental black samurai
I'm wearing
armor?
that decorative black samurai armor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Zant has probably seen Thaddeus in outfits like this before because he does ambassador work.
Yeah, and also I think we did all see him once when he was helping Gavin at some parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe for like the funeral or something.
Mhm.
Probably saw a couple dress-up times, but yeah. I think I would have seen that in other places as well. I think you're right.
So Zant's armor also would have like motifs of like turtles and things on it. So it's kind of like turtle shell black armor.
Yeah, it was either that or a kimono type of thing, but I didn't know if I'd be able to find that here, so.
You might have been able to have it made, but
Yeah.
since you've got the armor on, might as well.
I figure this is cool, so I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
used to it. What's Harmony wearing?
I was going back and forth in my head between like how funny would it be that she could only find kid sizes, so she was wearing like a like a dress made for a little girl.
Great.
I kind of like that. Just in bright red, like full like tulle skirt, that comes out all fluffy.
Is there a
big,
taco
like,
next to you?
Big what? No.
Is that red figure? I don't know. Are you them?
All the jewelry. No.
Yeah.
No, and it's got like a big like satin ribbon around the middle that's purple that ties in the back.
And then matches her hair a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then she's wearing like red high heels with it, which is like awkward because she usually goes around barefoot, so she's probably going to be stumbling all night.
Also,
is she wearing them for the fashion or for the height?
Probably a bit of both.
Platform shoes.
She's kind of tired of all the short comments lately.
Also,
Look after high heels.
But also she wants to make the dress look a little bit more grown up.
Yeah.
I also make sure Byakko has a bow tie.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then Mara is just wearing her usual getup, or does she have?
Well, my glamour studded armor,
Ah, that's
I'm going
right.
to change into to make it look like I'm wearing a totally lacy, frilly, completely white gown with lace all up to the neck and the biggest tiara I can imagine.
Great.
Like glittery stones in it. Perfect.
But
Nice.
my pirate boots underneath.
Well, as the group of you
Styling.
in those outfits begin to approach the tomb of Levistus, you find yourself walking across these barges and docks that have been covered with these like lilac carpets. And you can see that the magical lights that sort of line the boardwalk kind of twinkle in and out of different colors. And it's actually like they seem to be following the color pattern of the auroras above. So it just kind of has this sort of enchanting effect. But you come up to the entrance of the tomb, and there's a group of little imps there, and they're all in like full tuxedos that have little like holes in the back for their wings. And they're basically one at a time going up to groups of guests that are coming and escorting them into the tomb. So one of them approaches you and says, "Ah, guests of the party, I presume? Ah, yes, looking around, I recognize Sir Thaddeus Hammerlock, Zant, Harmony, and Mara. Yes, I've been briefed on all of you and where I am to escort you. If you would please follow me." And he just kind of gives a low bow, such that his like nose is pretty much on the ground.
All right, yeah, I'll follow
Okay,
him.
yeah, let's follow.
He guides you into the tomb, and you find yourselves almost instantly in sort of this labyrinth of icy tunnels. If this imp weren't guiding you, it would be very easy to become lost here, since the tunnels like branched every minute or so. But because the imp is guiding you, you're able to make your way just fine through the tunnels. And you see that like the same magical lights that were lining the boardwalk also are set kind of like a foot or so behind the icy walls, creating this sort of like shimmering, enchanting light effect as the light reflects through the ice and lights your path. And the imp guides you through these tunnels until maybe a few minutes into the journey, you begin to hear sort of the sounds of chatter and music and just general merriment not far ahead of you. And finally, the imp guides you into a vast chamber. I'm not going to put a specific foot value on it, but it's incredibly wide. It's full of tables, and in the center of the chamber, there's this large ice sculpture in the middle of a fountain. And the ice sculpture is of the group of you, the four of you.
Oh man.
Plus Byakko, basically standing triumphantly in poses of victory upon the corpse of Demogorgon. And all of this is
Awesome.
sculpted beautifully out of ice, and there's a fountain around it, so like water is kind of illuminating the whole thing in this beautiful way.
Did they catch our best features in it?
You would say so, yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome.
So Thaddeus, he looks very
Like
noble.
this.
Like his hair, even in the ice sculpture, looks like it kind of is like blowing in the wind or whatever. And like Harmony looks at least a foot taller than she normally is.
Yes. All right.
So this ice structure kind of dominates the center of the room, and behind that you can see that there is a curved table that sort of all the other tables are positioned to face, and there are 9 seats at the table. But starting from the left, the 2nd, 4th, and 6th are not occupied, while the other ones seem to have people sitting in them. At the first seat on the left, the group of you would recognize Zariel is kind of sitting there with a solemn, angry look on her face. And she definitely notices the group of you come in. Thaddeus would be the only one who recognizes anyone else at the table.
Oh no.
At the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th seat, There is a lilac-skinned, seemingly tiefling in appearance woman of beguiling otherworldly beauty and strength and charm, who you would recognize to be Glasya. And then behind that table, on a dais overlooking the entire rest of the chamber, there is a ornate throne of incredible ostentatiousness. It's encrusted with gems, all of them rubies of incredible value, and topped with a 9-pointed star centered with the most, like the biggest ruby you've ever seen. There's this throne that is just sort of looking down over the rest of it, but it is currently empty. And then the only other thing you see is that amidst all of the like tables and things that sort of fill this room, there are devils of all kinds kind of milling about, chatting, some of them dancing to like music that is being played from nowhere. And yeah, this is the scene that you walk into. The imp that was guiding you just kind of gives you a low bow and says, I must see to other guests, but flag down one of the waiters if you would like anything. We have all manner of food and beverages, whatever suits your delights. I'm sure that we have it. And he just kind of gives a
Wait, I have one question before you leave.
Like he's turning to go, but he turns back to you and gives a bow and says, yes.
Where did you get your tuxedo?
We were all provided them by Her Lady Glasya. And then he kind of like turns around and scurries off.
Oh.
I kind of want to buy one for Moloch.
Oh,
I figured when you asked that, I'm like, I know this is coming. Oh man, cereal's here, guys.
Well, Harmony,
God.
that could be arranged a little bit later.
You're not going to steal one, are you?
Who, me?
Oh. So I suggest we sit at the side of the table where Zariel isn't.
Yeah, are there places for us? Are like we supposed to sit anywhere?
You look around, other than
we sit on
like
the statue.
that head table and the throne that like overlooks it all. Doesn't look like there's any arranged seating or anything like that, but there's plenty of tables and there's plenty, available in the front. There's plenty available in the back. Wherever you sort of want to sit, there's space.
Whew.
Do you think the food is safe to eat?
Well, do you want to find a table and flag down a waiter?
You can see people, and I say people, I mean devils, eating the food. Someone could roll an insight check if you wanted.
Sure, I'll do it. On like just the quality of the food, or?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
like the devils that are eating it.
27.
27. Okay. There's a lot of devils sort of partaking of the food, and there's like all kinds of different food. There's various meats, cheeses, wines. Really, there's like actually even some dishes that are sort of like Elderhaven reaches in origin, like some noodle things and rice and stuff like that.
Well,
it seems like any kind of food you can imagine is here. But the devils that are eating it, you kind of watch them for a little bit, and you don't think any of them are particularly enjoying it. They seem to be like, with that high of an insight check, they seem to be doing it out of obligation.
It's funny. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go for some of those noodle dishes and stuff.
Yeah. Pretty much anything you can imagine food-wise, like it's on one of these tables.
Yeah, I want to see what kind of fish they have.
There's like a whole table dedicated to fish.
Oh my God.
I'm looking for the wine table.
There are imps dashing around with sort of like platters of wine and champagne. Some of them have stronger alcohols.
I grab a glass of wine and eat Chant.
With my insight check, do I feel like this is sort of a attempt to have a like material plane style, like this isn't like a normal thing for devils?
Yeah, you had a 27, right?
Yes.
They are definitely like this entire room here has been crafted based on what they perceive like a fancy material plane party to look like.
Okay.
Yep.
I got you.
Cool.
What's your passive perception, Zand?
23.
23. Okay. You would also see occasionally devils do go off into like side tunnels. Like they'll be like they're kind of like grumbling their way through, like eating some of the material plane food, and then they go off into side tunnels, and they come back looking a lot happier than they were when they left. But you don't know what they've gone off to do.
I can guess.
Remind me to ask Mullet what devils eat.
He's eaten some food before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you were in
I don't recall.
Redwater, he ate some of the food there.
Wow, that's a good memory. I
Mhm.
don't remember anything that happened when we were in Redwater.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick, you were saying something.
Oh, there are who did the imp say to ask if we need anything?
There are basically other imp waiters running around here, and he said you could talk to any one of them.
Yeah, I'll flag down a waiter and ask if an ice demon named or an ice devil named Basis is attending this party.
Okay. He kind of, he slows to a stop. He was on his way back to wherever the kitchen seemed to be because his tray of drinks is all empty. Like he's bussing one of the tables. But he looks up at you, and you're significantly taller than him, and he just says, "Oh, yes, there is a devil named Basis in attendance, but it's not an ice devil. He was recently promoted, if I recall." And he kind of like looks around the auditorium, and he points across the way at what looks to be a pit fiend that has this kind of like light blue skin that seems to like glisten with frost and ice. And he says, "If I recall correctly, that would be Basis, Master Thaddeus. Do you need anything else from me?" He kind of like looks at his platter, and he says, "I'm out of drinks, but I can be back with another if you require."
No, thank you. You've done enough, and I'll return to.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll return to the group and
Okay.
point out the pit fiend. There, that's our man Basis.
That's Basis? Wait, so when they get promoted, they like evolve like a Pokemon or something? Like I don't get it. Like I'm really confused now. I thought they just got like, I don't know, like
I think that they do, because I remember, Malik used to be an archfiend, and I don't think he was an imp then. I think their body changes with their station, it seems like.
That's crazy.
Devils, yeah, I mean, if you haven't learned it by now, this would be the moment you realize that devils are very mutable in their form.
I guess they do come out as like little crawly things from the sticks or whatever, right? So okay, yeah.
I don't know if
The
Harmony would have
lemurs or
filled you
whatever?
in on this, but maybe she would have.
Yeah.
Pretty much all devils start as lemurs and work their way up.
Yeah.
Like even the greatest pit fiends that you encounter were theoretically at one point just lemurs.
Yeah, I think you were saying that when we first encountered the sticks, and we saw those like weird creatures crawling out.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, it clicks all of a sudden for Zen. He's like, wow. I mean, it happened to me once, but only once. From a robot to this.
You only needed one.
Thanks.
I just want to say I've been flipping through my notes trying to find the name of the devil lawyer, Vialtar?
Valtar, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to look around and see if you see him?
Yeah, but also, as a side note, some of the funny notes that I've come across while I was looking for that are Hunter tickles a wall.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
That was when there was a wall yokai that was
Yeah.
blocking your progress. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's so good.
You're muted, okay?
You're muted. I don't know what you're lit.
Also, there's one line that just says, "Ah!"
Feel responsible somehow.
It was probably me, actually. But Harmony, if you're looking around for Vialtar, you can go ahead and make a perception check.
Let me just unmute myself. All right, perception. 15.
15, okay. Not only do you spot Vialtar, you spot a couple other people of note. Vialtar is at a table near the high table, and you can see that he is sort of in conversation with some other devils, but keeping an eye on the high table. Specifically, he seems to be keeping an eye on this like lilac-skinned tiefling woman. But you definitely spot him with his like backwards-facing bull horns that kind of come out of the back of his head and like go up that way. And he's recognizable for the tie that he wears on his front without a shirt, just the tie that goes down to his sort of his belly button and is probably about as big as Thaddeus.
I still have his shadow, don't I?
You do. And the shadow actually kind of tugs in that direction, and maybe that sort of aids you spotting him.
That's pretty great.
I remember just now, he also has like a pair of minuscule spectacles that he wears on his face. But you said you rolled a 15?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you also spot a few other people you recognize amongst the crowd. You spot the dark armored, sort of with like the scratched front form of Olympius. The scratches sort of forming the like shattered gibbous on his chest. And he seems to be situated across the room from Vialtar with another devil that seems to be basically a suit of armor filled with fire. And those two seem to be sort of attending to Zerial at her seat at the high table. You also spot the sort of charcoal black scarred form of Discord, and the teal skin, pale white eyes, wavy black hair of Passion, also attended by that third tiefling you've seen Discord with, who's sort of this like muscular, gray-skinned tiefling woman with red eyes, sort of like small budding horns and long hair that's like pulled back into a tight ponytail. And all three of those seem to be wearing sort of like officers' uniforms. Like you can very much picture like the officers in Star Wars for the Empire, that sort of uniform with like badges across the pocket. And all three of them are wearing those. So you spot them. Let me see if there's anyone else you would spot with a 15.
Yeah, we got some.
Why did I think this party would be a good idea?
I never thought it would be a good idea, but
there's two other people. One of them is there's a group of pit fiends sort of in the middle of the chamber, and you recognize one of them to be Furcus, the Minister of Mortal Relations. He's got that kind of like withered pit fiend look to him with like the gray skin and like the fingernails that look like they're gonna like break off. So you recognize him. But there's also another figure keeping to the back of the chamber, and you don't recognize this figure, but your attention is drawn to him nonetheless. He's got this kind of like dark purple skin, and he has like cloven hooved feet. And he's not wearing very much in the way of clothes, just kind of like almost like a kilt type thing. That seems to be made of like leather. And he has a wavy sword at his side. But the main thing that you spot is he has this like amulet with like a spiraling Y on it that sort of hangs from his neck. And this figure is kind of like leaning against the wall at the back of the party, observing everyone else. And you can see everyone else is giving him a wide berth. But what draws your attention to him is your chaos amulet leaps up towards him just a little bit. Yep.
Oh, geez.
So that's everything you see as you kind of scan the party.
Well, time to go. I want to go see how this shadowed or Harmony shadow thing plays out with the lawyer.
Yeah,
I
well,
too
that
am
was,
very curious to meet Valtar for the first time. This will be great.
Second time for me.
Yeah.
well, have I told you about him yet?
Nope. Never.
It's just you and me there.
And
Yeah. And was Mandus there?
Mandus was there. I just
Yeah.
rewatched the episode,
Oh.
or at least that part of the episode. So the group of you survey the room, and there's plenty of familiar and unfamiliar faces. What would you like to do?
Wait, so before I go and talk to Wildar, did we want to leverage? I'm talking to Xant.
Oh, sure.
You can safely assume Thaddeus is not listening to this.
Yeah. Do we want to leverage Vilatar, to get rid of the contract on on Mara's grandfather?
I think we should talk to Bazith first, see if we can't do it ourselves, and then use Vilatar for something else.
So I'm not sure. We could also.
Our last conversation with Bezos wasn't a very polite one.
No. Well, and this is the problem because
Vilatar,
Vilatar works for Glasya,
mm-hmm.
and the other two contracts that we need out of are directly related to Glasya, i.e., one of Glasya's contracts and Glasya's father's contract.
Yeah, I don't.
You're not here in this conversation.
No, you're right. Sorry.
I think we should
I forgot that you weren't talking to the players too. You were talking to Xant.
I'm talking to Xant.
I think that we should try and use Vilatar for Glasya's specific contracts, not Bazith's contract. Because I think he'd have more pull that way.
True, but I don't know if he'd be willing to help us get around a contract with his boss.
Otherwise, we could always mingle with him and see how much he's willing to, flex his muscles that way, or what he's willing to do. Because we didn't really get a good grasp. We just said like, I'll help you with contract lingo, or whatever.
I think his offer was to get out of contract.
Yeah, he said
or
that
find a loophole.
There's two things he would do for you. He would help negotiate a contract that is favorable for you, or he would, since he and Glasya's other lawyers kind of specialize in this, would help you try and find a loophole in an existing contract. Those were the two things he offered.
Okay.
So I don't know if he'd want to go behind his boss's back, is my point, but...
I think we could ask him to see where he's willing to, be comfortable in those scenarios.
Yeah, that's true. Do you want to do the talking with him, or should I go over and talk to him?
I'll come with you, because I want to see how this shadow thing plays out. You haven't had your shadow in a long time.
I don't even remember. I don't even know if we ever found my shadow.
You didn't.
No.
Maybe it's still in the shadow.
I just had his. That's not where I lost it, though. It lost because of my magic hiccups.
Yeah.
All right, let's go talk to Vilatar then.
Sure.
Okay. So Harmony and Xant. Who else is going with Harmony and Xant?
I think it's just the two of us. I don't know if I ever told Mara about it either. Did I?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Mara and Thaddeus were down a well at the time.
I know that they were. I know we were separated at the time, but I don't know if I would have told her later about it either. I think I kept it a secret because I didn't want Thaddeus to know that I freed a devil.
Yeah. I was a little bit.
So it's just me and Xant.
Yep.
Okay.
And Byakko.
And Byakko.
The three of you sort of stride off, and like Mara and Thaddeus, you'd see them go, but they don't really give you any indication of where they're going.
Okay. I'll just go talk to someone else then, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'd be like, we're gonna go mingle.
We'll just be like, yeah, we'll be right back.
You stride across the chamber, cross in front of the statue of the group of you, sort of standing imposingly over the body of Demogorgon. And you come to Vilatar's table.
Sorry, this is really stupid. But when we pass the statue, can I just use prestidigitation to make my statue like clean and shiny and like just
pop a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's it.
It just shines a little bit more than the others.
It's really stupid. I'm so sorry.
I think I'd like grab her arm here. Come on, Harmony.
You come up to the table where Vilatar is talking to a group of devils, and he catches sight of the two of you, or the three of you, I guess, with Byakko, and he just says, "Oh my, excuse me, just excuse me for one moment." And he kind of excuses himself from the group of devils and like shoulders his way over to you, and he looks down at the two of you and says, "Oh, it colored me surprised. I didn't think I would see the group of you again. To be honest, remind me of your names. What was it?"
I'm Harmony.
Zant. Well, you
This
knew
is
me.
Zant?
You knew me as Hunter before, probably.
He kind of nods his head and he says, "Actually, the eyes of a pit fiend, they're quite special. We can see the true form of any individual we look at. So I recognized you. I did."
Oh.
But he kind
How
of
have you been?
he looks back at you and says, "Oh, I've been quite well. How about yourself? Actually, I suppose I should have recognized you from the statue, shouldn't I?"
Yeah, we kind of,
Well, you've come a
did a
long way
thing.
since you rescued me from my prison cell.
Helping out devils. That's what we do.
Clearly, I've heard that some around here, these at this shindig, have been calling you the heroes of hell. That's quite something.
We'll take it.
And he looks down at you and says, "Well, do you fancy a drink or something? Shall we sit?"
Absolutely.
And he kind of like snaps his fingers and flags down another imp who takes away your empty 2 wine glasses and replaces them with 2 more.
So is he a pit fiend? If we're okay, I wasn't sure. I forgot what
He's
kind
a
of devil
little
he
bit
was.
like slighter in stature than the rest of them, but still like you can see like powerful muscles underneath his skin. Yeah, so he's a pit fiend, but maybe not quite as like physically strong as other ones.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
And he kind of like gestures towards a seat.
How have things been now that you're back down here? You're not stuck in that cage anymore.
Well, it's
I
much
hope you
better.
Hope you didn't get into too much trouble for being gone for so long.
No, I think that her ladyship was glad to have me back. The ice devil she promoted to fill my void wasn't quite doing the trick. So she demoted him back right away. I think he's waitering the party. Yes, there he is. And he points over to him.
Great.
How much I love this guy.
Can he be our 5th member of our party?
We already have 3 5th members of this party.
What if we write a contract to have him help us? Just kidding.
She's been treating you pretty good then?
Oh, yes, quite well, quite well. Well, it colored me intrigued. I guess recognizing you from the statue, I should have known, but it's incredible the things you've done for the Blood War and for the Hells. Everyone, I'm sure, is quite grateful to the group of you.
Well, we're hoping to leverage that for a little bit of help with the stuff we came here for.
Yes, well, this is the sort of party where you can make that sort of thing happen, I'm sure, if you talk to the right people. And he just kind of like nods.
Are all the archdevils going to be in attendance today?
He looks up at the table and says, "Well, I think most of them. Despater doesn't come off of his iron throne for really anything but a direct conference with Asmodeus these days. He's quite paranoid, cuckoo. And well, there are rumors that the reason we're having this little party in the tomb of Levistus is that he's going to be making an appearance himself. But the Lord of the Nine, being who he is, I wouldn't throw my money in that pot. But we'll see. Other than that, I think everybody's here." And he looks up at the table and he kind of like does a little mental count, and he says, "No. Fierna has come in Belial's stead. Yes, they have a dual rulership over the Fourth, and it appears only one of them is here. But and he kind of points up at the table. You can see that there's this sort of like fire, like almost literal fiery-haired woman with sort of like the tiniest budding horns, who just kind of like exudes beauty, power, and grace. Is seated at a chair next to Glasya, and the two are kind of like whispering in each other's ears. They're like sitting very close to each other and like giggling and talking to each other. And he points up to her and he says, "Yes, that's Fiona. I don't think we'll be seeing Belial tonight, but other than that, I think the rest of the Archdevils should be in attendance."
Okay,
Great.
that's crazy.
It's very interesting.
Do conferences like this happen often in the Hells?
Oh no, this is quite the irregularity.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Is the occasion just to celebrate the end of this conflict, or was there an ulterior motive?
Well, roll a persuasion check, I guess, to sort of get the gossip flowing.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
I love being able to roll the things I'm good at. Feels really good. Oh, 27.
27. Okay.
Yeah.
I had to do math in my head for a second.
Yeah, like, do.
Yeah. I think Zant, you would notice that like there's a little bit of a nervous energy to him, and you can't quite place the source, but it's making him very chatty and susceptible to that sort of prod, and so he does go on.
Okay.
And he sort of points to another pit fiend across the way, sort of standing and talking with Furcus. And it seems to be a female pit fiend. She kind of is wearing this suit of impeccable infernal iron armor that has kind of like, just looking at it with your like practiced eyes, Ant, you would see that it's like highly resistant or impervious to damage. Like it's a very good suit of armor. But then other than that, she kind of has her like hair pulled into like a tight bun, and she has these like half moon glasses that sit on her nose with like a chain around the back. She has kind of like the look of a bookkeeper statistician about her, other than like the heavy armor.
Okay.
And Viletar points to her and says, "Well, you see, this is just pure speculation. Don't quote me on this, but that is Zabos, the Minister of Promotions within the Nine Hells, and she does not come out for social gatherings very often due to the high probability of assassination." And he says that like it's a given.
Okay.
Obviously. Yeah, obviously. Save for occasions where there's to be a promotion or demotion of some significance. So, speculation around the tables is that someone important is getting promoted or demoted tonight. So it's kind of like,
okay.
Who's your best bet as to who that might be?
Oh, it's anyone's guess. Who can predict the ways of Asmodeus? He's he's unpredictable, and if he was predictable, then he wouldn't sit where he is. So
that's fair. But do you know of anyone who has done a particularly good service, or
he kind of looks around the room? He says, "Well, Zariel, she let the Prince of Demons slip past her lair, so perhaps she's getting demoted." And he kind of like taps his fingers on his chin, looks around the room. It could be that Gregorian is going to be replacing Levistus. It was Tantalin that stopped the siege. I mean, I know it was the group of you who did the actual killing, but it could be that Gregorian is going to swap places with the Lord of the Fifth. It's hard to say. Could be anyone.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is quite. Nothing like a good demotion. like you guys should agree with that. Like that's just obvious.
Well, I mean, if it's Zariel.
Nothing like a good demotion.
Yeah, I mean,
fantastic.
he says it with like relish in his undertone. Like he's clearly looking forward to seeing someone fall.
Just for the entertainment purposes or something, or just...
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, all right, just spectacle. This is great. At least the spotlight's not all on us. I'd be a little bit more worried if it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's not being thrown in our honor.
Well, maybe, but maybe not.
I mean,
it is, but
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little awkward. So, Tar, since we're down here, I hope you haven't forgotten our little arrangement.
Zant, now you can see the nervous energy that he was exhibiting before sort of come to a boil as his eyes kind of like light up with like nervousness. And he says, yes, no, I hadn't forgotten. Problem is, I don't owe you anything. And we're going to cut away. Kate, I'm sorry about this. Just in advance. Thaddeus and Mara, what are the two of you doing?
I think Thaddeus is going to talk to Zariel.
Oh, okay.
What is Mara doing?
Is there dancing?
There is, but it looks like it's sort of the same thing that Zant saw earlier when he was observing the devils eating. There's devils dancing, but it looks like it's out of obligation. Like it's all very rigid and forced.
Okay, so I'll just wander around, mingle.
Okay. Is there anyone in particular you want to talk to, or?
Well, I'll just try to go get close to Bazith and try to overhear anything. Just kind of try to blend in.
Roll a stealth check.
You don't have to roll this.
Let's see. 16.
That's pretty good.
Is that factoring in all your bonuses? Like,
well, I'm not proficient in stealth, so yes.
yeah, that's right.
That's correct.
Let's see. Pit Fiend's passive perception is... you get up sort of behind Bazith, and it seems like you're undetected. You kind of like take up a position at a table behind him and begin to listen into his conversation. And he's talking to another Pit Fiend. This one... who is he talking to? It looks to be another female Pit Fiend. She is heavily armored and like decked head to toe in weapons. And she's surrounded by a group of devils, ice devils, horn devils, sort of higher ranking devils, who, Mara, they're kind of like, they're engaging in the dancing, but as opposed to the other devils who you see around the room, the ones in this Pit Fiend's entourage seem to move with like a grace and fluidity that almost looks like the sort of movements you exhibit when you fight. They have kind of this like live, almost rogue-like quality to their movements, as they almost like they could be pirates on the high seas or whatever. They have this fluidity to their movements that they're sort of dancing around this Pit Fiend. And Bazith is talking to this Pit Fiend, and he's just saying, so he's really to be in attendance tonight. You're certain of this? If so, I would hope that measures have been taken to guard him. You know that him being out in the open leaves him vulnerable. And the female Pit Fiend just kind of like crosses her arms and says, are you questioning my security measures? I am the supply master of the 9 hells. And he just, Bazith kind of like is cowed by that. And he says, no, I understand, I do. It's just the Lord of the Fifth. He hasn't been out of confinement for hundreds of years, and Gregorian will surely want to move against him if he can. I'm here to offer my protection, if at all possible. And the female Pit Fiend kind of like laughs at him and says, you think you could protect the Lord of the Fifth better than the Stygian champions? And she kind of gestures to the sort of gracefully dancing devils around her. We have been specifically trained for this purpose. And they go on to have this like argument about whether Bazith could actually offer any aid in guarding Levistus, who apparently will be in attendance tonight, but hasn't showed up yet. And that's what you overhear. And then Thaddeus, you were going up to talk to Zariel.
Mm-hmm.
You stride past the table where Discord, Passion, and Ambition are seated, and they all kind of look up at you as if seeing you sort of for the first time. But Zariel clocked you when you entered and her eyes haven't left you, and she just watches you as you come up. Her sort of gray, burned-looking skin and sort of ember-like eyes never leaving you as you approach.
Okay. And she's like seated up on a table.
Yeah, she's seated at sort of this like semicircular high table that overlooks the rest of the party. The only thing that the high table doesn't overlook is this raised dais at the very back of the chamber that is featuring this empty throne.
Yeah. I think that is, we'll reach up and ask, would you favor me with a dance?
She squints at you and looks down the table at where Glasya and Fierna are having this sort of whispered conversation, and just says, "Fine," and stands up. And you can see that she's forsaken her usual armor for a like long flowing red dress, but she's missing one of her arms, as you'll recall, and has been replaced with a flail. So it's not like she's like defenseless or anything like that. She still looks like incredibly imposing, and like she has this flail for an arm. But she stands up and offers you her good hand and says, "Lead the way."
Okay. So we'll go out on the floor and start to dance. And I imagine it's kind of hard because she only has one arm.
And you can also, as you go, you hear whispers from like other devils that you pass, like, "Zariel's getting up to dance with one of the mortals. Like, who must this guy be? Like, what the hell's going on?" You know, that sort of thing.
Excuse me, it's what in the hells is going on?
And as you get out onto the dance floor, this kind of like more high tempo, like waltz type thing picks up.
Yeah. And so I want to talk to her as we dance.
Yep.
I'll tell her, you know, I've been thinking a lot about you.
She like gives you this stony look and says, "So?"
I was specifically thinking about two things that I overheard in Lulu's dream, Lulu's memories.
You're still hanging around with that pitiful elephant companion of mine then?
She's been very useful.
Kind of shakes her head and says, "At one point I found her useful as well, before I rose above her."
Yes, you said something about having true power, serving a truly great master. I think is what I recall you saying, the old you in Lulu's memories.
She gives a deep nod and says, "Precisely."
But you don't believe that anymore.
What do you mean?
I mean, all the power that Asmodeus gave you, and all the armies, all the might that you have from your new station. None of that was sufficient to do what you were trying to do. The other thing you said in that dream was you were hoping we would lead you to this sword because you needed its power.
I thought at one point that finding my old sword and reforging it as a blade of hell would allow me to repel the demon prince. Turns out it wasn't necessary, and you did it for me.
Yes, the pretender goddess's champion did what you couldn't, what Asmodeus' power couldn't.
She shakes her head and kind of interrupts you and says, "You did that by your own power. Asanahen has nothing to do with this."
You're wrong. And you know you're wrong, and I'm trying to help you realize it. On some level, I think you know it.
Realize it in what, then? I go back to my pitiful self? No, thank you. You don't understand. Some people will say I fell. I didn't fall. I rose to shoulder a cosmic burden.
No, you've been telling yourself that for 2,000 years, but I'm here tonight to try and convince you that it's not true. You think that Asanahen gave up on you?
She did.
No, I'm here. She sent
me.
It took her 2,000 years.
Why would she have sent me on such a pathetic and useless endeavor if she wasn't merely throwing me away? What was the point of me monitoring the blood war? Sending reports back to the heavens? Like there was some meaning to it? They never intended to intervene. The only chance of intervening was me, and I did that.
And the blood war has stopped now because of you, has it?
No,
No.
but I keep the demons from mounting massive invasions of incredible size and force upon the material plane. You and your people ought to be grateful for what I did. The battles
That was
I fought
happening.
in the
That was
hells-
happening before you became general. That is the purpose of the blood war. That is why I can't talk tonight. That is why Asana had sent you here, to make sure that the blood war never stopped, to report to her if anything did happen, like Demogorgon's incursion.
And she kind of like gives a little bit of a shrug as like the dance gets a little bit more intense for a second.
Mhm.
And she says, well, if that was Asana Hen's purpose, then I'm still fulfilling it, am I not?
No.
Besides, one day with my newfound power, we'll push into the abyss itself and destroy the nightmare that it creates. For
I don't
good.
think you're going to be around long enough to do that.
What makes you say that?
You failed. And I'm not here to rub your nose in it. I'm here to just confront you with the facts. Asmodeus is not going to be happy with this.
She make just a charisma check. Just I
Okay.
want to see how this affects her.
Come on, Nick. Come on. Get advantage.
A straight charisma check is an 11.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
It's only a brief pause that it causes her. It's not like it causes her to falter too much or anything like that. She says, "Do you know what they call me? Every archdevil has monikers that are affixed to them. Do you know what one of mine is?
I couldn't imagine. Tell me.
The Jewel of Asmodeus. I'm his crowning piece in his collection. I may have failed once. I'm not going anywhere."
You'll do what you will, Zariel, but it took Asana 2,000 years to get a champion who was able to be here at the right place at the right time, to make it this far, to be in a position to talk to you without you just striking them down. I don't know how long it's going to take before someone else like me arises again, but she will send it. However long it takes, she will send another. There will be maybe 100 years from now, 10,000, someone else will come. She won't give up on you.
As you finish saying that, just a tiny little voice echoes out from your sword, and you recognize it to be Lulu's voice, and she says, "He's right, Zariel. Listen to him. Asana didn't give up on you. Trust me. We were friends once before. We're still friends. You're my best friend." And can you make a persuasion check?
Okay. Hope this is better than the last one. Not bad. Not the best it could be, but a 23.
23. Okay. She looks down at you a little bit shaken by hearing Lulu's voice and the speech that you gave. And she says, "Suppose that is true. Suppose that your purpose here truly was to bring me back into the fold. You expect me to believe that the Lady of Judgment will accept me?" And she gestures to herself. "Look at me. I'm not exactly fit for the halls of heaven. She would smite me if I went back to her."
As you are now, maybe. But if you're willing, if you meet me tonight, if you want to come back, I can help you tonight. But this is it. This is the only chance. I have to leave soon.
She looks down at you with like, you can see that there's a mixture of like anger and disbelief in her expression. And she says, "What could you do in one night to redeem thousands of years of evil?" And you can tell from her expression that she's not sold on it. Like she's not entertaining the idea. She's just giving you a chance to like explain more.
Yeah. I can't, in all honesty. That's going to be a long road that you're going to have to take. But I can set you on the first steps for it. I can help you recover who you were, and that person could maybe someday atone for all that you've done.
The dance kind of comes to a stop for a second. Like the music stops as the songs are about to change, and the two of you stop, and there's this sort of like very like pregnant silence between the two of you as she just kind of like looks down at you and she says, "One more dance. Tell me more." And we'll cut away for a second.
My God, Nick, you're so good. Oh, you're so good. Oh man.
Holy smokes.
Nothing else happens at this conference thing. That's enough for me. Man, I was like flailing in my chair.
Like, I want to be clear, she's not sold yet. But like,
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. That was enough.
Yeah.
You've seen her waver for like the first
God,
instant.
oh, that was so good.
Cutting back over to Harmony and Zant.
Okay, we gotta top
Bazaar, this. He's just said that he doesn't owe you anything, and he just kind of lets that hang in the air.
No, we had a deal.
The song stops, and the two of you see that like Thaddeus is dancing with Zerial across the way.
Yeah, I'm like really interested in that too, but
yeah, it's like, do we need to like? Okay, they look fine. No, we had a deal.
Technically, yes, we did. But our deal has concluded, and I know this because, well, were it not so, I would be beholden to help you, and well, I'm certainly not.
What do you mean concluded? What are you talking about?
When we set forth the terms of our agreement, there were parameters that were laid forth. I told you that I would, you could have one favor from me within my certain legal expertise for the duration of your lifespan. And a little while back, I felt that shackle release. So, look, I don't owe you anything, but I'm a reasonable devil. I can introduce you to my lady, and perhaps she can help. Would that be amenable?
Can I roll insight on that?
Yep. Sorry, Kate, I know you were going to hate me so much for this.
No. This is really interesting.
At
first, I thought it was going to be something stupid that I just overlooked when we made the deal, but I'm really glad it wasn't.
I remember at the time thinking, wait a second.
I rolled an 11.
No,
but
this is great.
I believe it's when Harmony died, is what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like pretty obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, so like,
that's the
but even when
get,
she comes back to life, that isn't like.
No, my lifespan was done.
Doesn't seem to have had an effect.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So you're living your bonus life now.
Wait, well, maybe we can.
Listen, all I can say is I'm quite glad that you're standing here before me alive, but all I know is I'm no longer bound. That contract is dead and gone, but I am happy to give you an introduction to my lady, and she is the best of the best. So if anyone can help you, it's her.
The thing is, though, just between you and me, and
he gives you like a nervous smile.
The thing is, though, she's kind of the one holding the contracts that we may or may not need help with.
Oh, then that's all the better, because she'll be perfectly positioned. She won't even have to find a loophole. She can just negotiate. That's wonderful.
I mean, I'd still like that introduction, I think.
But trust me, she's a very reasonable and generous Devil, and I would be more than happy to introduce you. Shall we go now?
There's one more thing
Sure.
I want to do. Wait. And
Sure,
I
sure.
point, I do this, and then I point at Harmony's shadow. And I say,
I was actually just gonna say, like, I was scoping out to see if he had a shadow, a new shadow.
He does not, no.
and say, well, that's yours.
Yes, this is true.
That's
And if
true.
you recall from last time we met, I told you I have really no need of it, so it's fine if you keep it.
Yeah.
And then
he
I'll
didn't
just look
seem
at
to
Harmony and be
that
like, do
last
you
time
want
either.
do you want his shadow? I'm kind of interested to see it transfer as well, but
I mean, it's better than not having a shadow.
okay, yeah. I mean, if that's what you guys want to do.
Look, I don't have the tools personally to extract a shadow, but I'm sure that someone around here does. So if that's something you want, I would be willing to
I mean, do you
ask
want it
around.
back though?
He kind of shakes his head. I don't care one way or another.
Well, it's yours then,
Neither do
Harmony.
I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I kind of grew fond of it over the last 5 years, you know?
Makes you look quite intimidating. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
It's gonna be like some small bunny rabbit that has your shadow or something. Like the chain goes on. Okay, yeah. I guess we can meet Glasya then.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
In the meantime, as Vialtar kind of escorts you up towards the high table, is there anything that you want to do, Mara?
No, I think I'll go back to the table that we're at and wait to tell the group what I learned.
Okay. From your position, as you're sort of not occupied with any of the other goings on in the chamber, you recognize that another figure comes into the chamber from one of the side passageways, and he could pass for human, perhaps, except for some distinctly devilish features. He has this kind of like dark and mysterious air to him. He's about 6 feet tall, and he has this long black hair and a neat goatee. And his eyes are sort of what gives him away as fiendish, since they're just kind of pools of inky blackness that almost seem to like radiate darkness around him. And then when he enters the room and sort of surveys it, he also flashes a smile, and you can see these sharp, pointy teeth in his mouth, another tell of his fiendish ancestry. And he begins to stride into the chamber. As he does so, his sort of like loose silken clothing kind of like ripples around him, and you can see that he has a beautiful rapier at his belt. But as he walks through the chamber, you watch as basically like ice forms on like the food and like the alcohol on trays that he passes kind of like freezes solid. He just has like this aura of cold. And as he enters the room and begins walking towards the high table, devils all around you begin to whisper this one name. They just say, Levistus, Levistus, it's Levistus, Lord of the Fin. And they're all just like whispering and watching him go as he walks up to the high table, pulls out a seat between Fierna and Glasya, and sits down at the high table. So you would see this, and no one else in the party would.
Okay.
Let's see, who do we want to go to now? We'll leave Thaddeus for a minute. We'll go back to Glasya and Harmony and Zant.
I think we would probably see it because we're going towards Glasya, right?
That's true. You would probably arrive at the high table at about the time that this figure does, and like pulls a seat in between Fierna and Glasya, and just sort of like positions himself between the two.
Okay.
And as you do, Mara and Zant, with advantage because Harmony's there, make insight checks.
Sure. Okay. I got a 21.
I got, oh wait, I'm proficient. So that is a 14.
14, okay. Mara, you just catch a glance from
Okay.
you catch a glance from the sort of lilac-skinned tiefling woman who you don't quite yet know is Glasya, in Levistus's direction, and you can't quite tell what the glance signifies or like what the emotion is behind it, but there's like a meaningful glance there. Zant and Harmony up close, you catch the same glance, and you recognize sort of like a couple emotions in the glance. There's desire, anger, hate, love. Like there's a lot going on in that glance. As it's like, but it quickly fades as she spots you approaching the table with Vialtar, and Vialtar just says, "My Lady Glasya, I present to you two of the heroes of hell. This is Mr. Zent and Miss Harmony of the material plane." And he says, I may have promised them an introduction, but with that, I'll be taking my leave. And he gives a very low bow and shuffles his way back to his table.
Wait, final time, where are you going? Come back.
He ditches. He's gone.
Oh my god.
And Glasya, she's wearing this like beautiful black gown that just sort of like fits her form perfectly. And she sort of leans across the table at the group of you and just says, "Ah, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I've been waiting so much for this moment. I, of course, am Glasya, Lord of the Sixth, and I've heard so much about you. Zant, of course, I know. Harmony. I was hoping I'd be able to speak with your companion, Thaddeus, at some point this evening, but I suppose that can wait.
Oh, I'm so sure. He seems to be rather occupied.
Let me come around to your side of the... Yeah, and she looks down at the dance floor and says, yes, he certainly does.
A little indisposed.
But she comes around to your side of the table and sort of like pulls you off to the side so you're out of ear reach of the other archdukes. And she sort of sits you down and sits across the table and says, now, my lawyer, Vialtar, was kind enough to broker an introduction. I hope the party is to your liking. If there's anything that I can do to improve it, please let me know.
I've got like the 2 wine glasses.
Which,
no, I'm having a great time.
As you've emptied them, they've been replaced by 2 more.
Yeah, I think I would say, oh, well, thank you for putting all this together, and the pleasure is ours.
Oh, no, truly, I do love a good party. This is almost selfishly all for me.
Well, if you say so.
You've been to many parties on the material plane?
Personally, no. I to be honest, I don't get out of the hells very much, but I do hear tell.
Well, this is a pretty good copycat of what we've seen in
Pretty
ours.
spot on.
Yeah.
But well, that is good to hear. See, I put my best themes on it, and I was hoping it would come up, and I think it has. And she kind of like looks around and surveys. It does seem as if everybody's having an excellent time.
I mean, he especially likes your sculpture.
There's a tense like moment between Thaddeus and Zariel on the dance floor. Everybody's having a great time.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'm just laughing at the idea of like devils being sent on missions to scout out parties. I'm
Think
sorry.
of all the things that you sent Moloch to do. All right, like
That's true. That's
yeah.
fair. That's fair.
A job's a job.
That's fair. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, yes, it's a great party.
She sort of nods and says, "Well, thank you. Is there anything I can do for you?" Vialtar, well, he's a little bit spineless at the best of times, and so if he approached me to introduce you, clearly there must be something you need.
Well, the thing is, I've known Vialtar for a while. I mean, we met 5 years ago in a tower, and
she is giving, like, she is leaned across the table at you, and she has this kind of like charm about her that it almost seems like she's giving the vibe that you're the only person in the room that matters.
That's nice.
She's listening with like rapt attention.
And yeah, anyway, he was locked up in a tower, and I helped him escape. and we made a deal for him to help me, but that was apparently nullified by my death. So I came to collect, and now I'm penniless.
Oh, well, that is tragic, but that is somehow the way that contracts work sometimes, unfortunately.
But he did mention that you know your way around a contract.
I do. I certainly do. I do have some things I would be willing to barter in if you're interested. First, tell me what you're seeking to achieve or obtain, and we can go from there.
Well, that's quite the list. Maybe once all of us are together, we can talk the details.
Shall we gather your friends then and have a little conversation?
Well, you know what? I think we should mingle a bit first, but it was lovely meeting you.
Excellent. Well, I will be up here when you're willing to talk. Gather your friends and then come back.
Sounds like a plan.
It's been a pleasure. And she sort of stands up and gives you a curtsy. And like all the while, her attention is just like focused on the two of you. And like Xant, you feel it too, that she has this like charm to her that just kind of like draws you in.
Okay.
And yeah, she bids you farewell and goes back up to the high table.
As soon as she walks away, I turn to Xant. I'm like, I'm sweating. Do I look like I'm sweating?
You look okay.
Do you have that old, like a towel or something?
Probably something you can use as a towel. And then I'll reach over to one of the waiters. I'm guessing they have a towel, and I'll just like grab their towel. Say, here you go.
Thank you.
Also, did I hear the whispering of Levistus and stuff like that as we were walking up to Glasya?
Yeah, with your perception, I think you would have.
Okay, so as we're kind of walking back, I guess, to our table to rendezvous with Mara, I'm gonna be like, hey, thanks for your help earlier, and I'll point at Levistus, and then I'll like walk back.
Oh, you kind of like give Levistus. He just kind of like gives you a cold look and just nods a little bit.
Yeah, much appreciated, man. And then we'll go back.
Thaddeus, was there anything else specifically that you wanted to like outline to Zariel in your like plan for the path to redemption?
Yeah, I'll just tell her what I have in mind, which is that there's a ceremony that we can perform tonight, which will, it takes a while. It's not a short thing, but at the end of it, it was kind of designed for errant knights of Isanahen who were seeking to return to the fold. It's a ceremony of atonement, and at the end of it, I kind of look into your soul, and if what I see there is a true desire to return, an honest and genuine one, then we can do that.
Are you talking about would it be the ceremony spell?
It is literally the ceremony spell does this.
Let me just look at it for a second. It's been a while since I looked at the ceremony spell.
Yeah.
The atonement option.
Mm-hmm.
Alignment has. Oh, okay. She looks down at you as like the dance has come to a close and you've kind of stepped off the dance floor as the next one starts. And she says, listen, I believe in what I'm doing here. I know that though I failed once, my record shows that I have been an asset in the Blood War. I have kept the demons at bay. And if I have learned anything about Asmodeus in my time here in the Hells, it's that he is a man with a plan, and eventually we will take the fight to the demons. So that will be my time to shine. I believe what I'm doing serves a greater purpose. But if you believe that that purpose can be served back at the side of Isanahen, I'm willing to try.
Yeah, to that, Thaddeus says, Zariel, once when you served Isanahen, you were the terror that ripped through to Stygia. You were in Demogorgon's place. You went further under her service than anybody ever has. Now that you're in Asmodeus' one, you couldn't even stop him. Think about it.
I'll think about it. And she just turns and walks away, back up to the high table.
Okay. I think the one thing Thaddeus wants to do before rejoining the others to talk to Glasya is I want to look around the party and see if anyone here is not what they're passing themselves off as. I just want to like look around with true sight.
Yeah. There is one person who is not exactly as they seem, and it's one of the pit fiends who is talking with Furcus.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. She kind of presents this like appearance of having this like constant smile on her face.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks, for all like intents and purposes, to anyone who doesn't have true sight, to be this sort of like as pleasant as a pit fiend can look, like this pit fiend with a pleasant like countenance and demeanor, and she kind of like is talking amiably with all the other pit fiends and things like that. But to you and anyone else around who has true sight, which you know that many of the pit fiends would, so like the people she's talking to, it wouldn't come as any surprise to them. But you can see through this like layer after layer after layer of illusions that shroud her. And what you see underneath is like a warped and twisted form of the same being. But it's like limbs have been replaced with like oozing tentacles, or like there are extra like useless like unmoving limbs that grow out of her. It's just kind of like this distorted hideous form underneath this layer of pleasant illusions.
Weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the only person who doesn't seem to be who they say they are, but the pit fiends that she is talking to don't seem to like make any notice of it.
Okay.
At least outwardly.
And she's with
Furcus.
Yeah, Furcus and his like people of 8, the Dark 8.
Yep.
Are there 8 of them in that group?
There seem to be 5 in that group.
Okay. Yeah. There's actually one other person in the party who's not what they appear to be, which is Mara, and Thaddeus is trying hard not to look at Mara because it's really confusing.
That's true. I think that would be the only other person that would go to my list. You would, so it isn't an illusion, but you would see through Bazith's promotion, essentially, and recognize him for who he is.
Yeah.
But that's not like an illusion or anything like that. You just recognize the person.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll go and rejoin the others.
When I get back to the table with Mara, I want to pull her aside. And I want to say, hey, you're sneaky. And I point to that.
That's profound.
Loner. And I point to that loner in the corner with the wavy sword and the weird amulet.
Your Chaos Amulet does another slight tug in that direction. And you can spot Discord eyeing him as well.
I'll say, okay, and then I'll say to Mara, can you figure out who that is and what their deal is, maybe? You can take Sam with you if you want. Mingle, do a dance, do some recon.
I just get volunteered for these things. What's going on here?
I mean, wouldn't you guys like to dance at a party in hell?
Who would?
And he walks up and said, I recommend it.
Itching to. Okay, did we say he was a tiefling? I apologize, but my internet's been in and out.
The one, no, he didn't say.
Yeah, he's fiendish in appearance. He has horns coming up out of his head.
Okay.
He also has cloven feet, but He
Okay.
stands taller than most tieflings. He's probably, let me see, I have an actual height for this guy.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I was very thorough in my preparation. He stands at nearly 9 feet tall. And as you
my
look at him,
gosh.
he has kind of like the perfect male figure. Because he's not wearing much clothes from like the waist up. Like he's very like chiseled. He's got like this dark purple skin that like very much accentuates every like muscle under there. He also has like tattoos on him that sort of like help to further accentuate his muscles. And he has these like burning yellow eyes that just sort of, I don't know, they have
Okay.
like this like feeling of promise to them as you like look at them. It's hard to explain.
Wow, dreamy.
You know, Harmony, I'm feeling like tonight's a very special night. I'm just going to go right up and ask him to dance, and I'll see what I can find out for you.
Ask
What would you-
him to dance?
Yeah, what would you like to know?
Oh, well, ask him about his amulet.
Okay. Should I mention yours?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I'm wondering if the same thing is happening to his, you know.
It might be.
This doesn't
It might
have like
be.
a multicolored gem or anything in it.
I
It
don't
has
know.
like this
Just,
spiraling Y design in it. That's
just
strange
see what
and
you can
weird.
figure out about him.
Okay.
Good luck.
This sounds like something that's right up my alley. I'll get on it.
Sure does. And when she does that, I'm going to go talk to Discord.
Okay. So Harmony's off to talk to Discord. Mara's off to talk to this mysterious figure in the corner. Which leaves Xant and Thaddeus kind of like looking at each other like, what?
Well, yeah, I think seeing Thaddeus sort of turn his attention and come this way, I'll wait to talk to him back at the table that we have.
Yeah.
Okay. As Xant and Thaddeus are converging on the table, and Harmony and Mara are going off their separate ways, the music cuts for a second. It's not sudden, but like it's like a planned interlude that it goes quiet, and the voices in the chamber kind of go quiet in response as well. And a voice fills the chamber, and it just says, my friends, welcome to the party. And you look up and you see that the dais at the very back of the chamber is now occupied with a being. There is a figure in a extremely expensive looking black and red pinstriped suit with these like wing-tipped shoes. And he has, kind of devilish features, the red skin, horns coming up out of the head. And he's got this cane, which is topped with a massive ruby that he kind of holds just like support his hands. And he just says, well, I think it's time we got this party into full gear. Let the celebration begin. And everyone in the chamber lets out this like shout of joy and like pleasure. And he takes a seat in that throne at the back of the room, rests his hands on the ruby pommel, and as Asmodeus joins the party, we'll end this session.
Oof.
Great.
Nice.
I'm actually terrified.
I've been practicing speaking as Asmodeus this week, and it's been quite a thing. Like a shower. So yeah, as that happens, we'll pick up this party. There's still a lot of conversations I think that need to be had. There's a lot of things that can go down. We'll pick up here next week, 7 p.m. Pacific. Melissa, I can't see what you've written there.
No, this
Open
is
up,
the
please.
last page of the journal.
Oh.
The last line.
Oh,
Talk about timing. It says Asmodeus is here. That's perfect. So bizarre.
My last line of this page says, Glasya and... No, Levistus and Glasya sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G.
We'll see if there's more to that next week.
Yeah.
Oh.
Welcome to
what do
my
I-
web of devilish intrigue.
I am in love.
It's great.
I
This is
just-
crazy.
Oh my god.
Thank you guys for playing. I'm looking forward to next week as all the major players of the party are now here. Should be very, very exciting. We'll be back Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Hope any of you who watched enjoyed and come back to watch more then. Everything should be exciting when Asmodeus is involved.
Yeah.
So,
I can't wait.
there you go.
Holy
see you then.
shit.
Bye.
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 Bye.